Please welcome Andreas Argyrides, the biotech equity research analyst at Wedbush. And there he is.
Hey, Tony, how are you?
Yeah. Good. How are you?
Pleasure to be here. Good.
It's always a pleasure to have you. I don't know if you got a chance to listen to Dr. David, but his interview was great. He talked a lot about the things that you and I have spoken about. One being how tough the sector is. And I couldn't help but notice in a recent Wedbush report that was sent to me, right there in bold, it's been a cruel, cruel summer for biotech. And that's like a softball for us. Our writers who cover this space, where our ears perk when we see that. Talk to us about why it's been a cruel, cruel summer.
Well, that's a throwback to the 80s, that song too, right? So good reference to my colleague who came up with that title. Yeah, so biotech, it has been hard for biotech investors, not just this summer, but for the past several years. And that's not factoring, that there has been what is typically a driver for investment in the sector, which is M&A. I mean, there has been some pretty decent M&A activity going on. There are probably a couple of reasons we can point to. A higher interest rate environment generally is a risk-off sentiment in biotech, is a risky sector. There are maybe some concerns around pricing with the Inflation Reduction Act. So again, generalist participation, maybe focusing a little bit on that. There have been, again, some notable other trends in terms of, let's say, first cycle approvals at the FDA. Those are down, I think, 95% in 2018. We're getting through first time, but now it's about, let me see what my notes say, 76% or so. So, I mean, there are some things to point to. With that said, I think it's a stock picking environment. And there's reasons to really be bullish. And one quick tip that I can add before you ask your next question is that investors that we're talking to are actually optimistic for 2014. I'm sorry, 2024. Apologies for that.
24, yeah. Oh, we're still stuck in the past from the 80s music.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's talk a little bit about that. I mean, I have definitely other questions to ask you, but 2024, I mean, once Halloween ends, people are in holiday mode. They're kind of looking forward to the next year, starting in November. Why should we be bullish about 2024? The last time we covered looking forward into 2023, we couldn't anticipate just how messy the start of the year was. Those first two quarters, the IPO market is still sluggish. M&A, you talked about some M&A deals. Amgen completing the Horizon deal at something like $28 billion. That was big, but is there more activity on the horizon, or is that just like a blip on the radar?
Well, I mean, going to my stat sheet here, I mean, there are so far 28 acquisitions in 2023, 14 of which were greater than $1 billion, which compares to about 11 from 2022. So I think, again, M&A is still something to pay attention to. I think that there are companies that, as they advance, late stage companies, and more, we're probably getting, at least in our universe, we're getting to the point where there are more companies that have revenues or products that are anticipated to come on that will start generating revenues. Those companies are attractive investments here. So I wouldn't balk, or use the kind of experience from 23 carrying it forward. That also said, there are a lot of companies that are trading below cash, are probably near their 52-week lows. And the sense that we get from talking with investors is that there's an opportunity here to find those companies. And this is kind of falls into like a bit of a cycle that happens in biotech, where a lot of companies, get to these trading at cash value, or 52-week lows, and what happens is, you get a resurgence, and that's where they get their multiples on their investment. So we think that is what 24 is setting up to look like.
Okay, so I think we still have you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I'm here. Hope I didn't get cut off.
Okay, great. Good. Let's talk a little bit about those companies that people might want to add to their portfolios. I mean, yesterday when we touched base and preparing for this conversation, we talked a little bit about Ars Pharmaceuticals. Talk to us a little bit about that. They had a little bit of trouble getting their product, Neffy. Neffy is kind of a pithy, cute name, but it didn't do so well with the FDA. What's your take on that company scenario?
Yeah, so back to the conversation that we had about first cycle approvals being down, and the FDA, I guess, raising the bar for innovation and rewarding companies as such. I mean, ARS has a great product. It's called Neffy. It's an intranasal epinephrine. A lot of people have been excited about this product coming on. They were the unfortunate recipients of a late, or really like 11th hour last minute decision by the FDA to take a post-marketing requirement, which means after approval, and make it a pre-marketing. So they're asking the company to run a repeat dose study under a nasal allergen challenge study. It's when they induce swelling, a congestion in the nose called rhinitis, and they're asking them to do that just to see kind of what how the product would act then, right? From a safety and efficacy standpoint. Low technical risk, in our opinion, from the experts we speak to. So we think that, to be honest, this is a delay of, most a year, probably sooner than that they get approved. And what that essentially does is gives our investors opportunity to get into the stock now at this valuation, with the promise that this is going to be a big disruptor in the space, which we think is the case. I think this is going to be a big product.
And how disruptive to the space? I mean, you follow Aquestive Therapeutics, that's a rival of ARS, ours, ticker SPRY. Aquestive is AQST. Talk to us a little bit about the effect that a major development like Neffy could have on rivals in the space.
Well, look, so these are called no needle alternatives to the EpiPen, right? And so there's a decent chunk of the patient population out there who have type 1 allergies at the risk of anaphylaxis that have fears of needles, and there is a real risk that in the event that they are having a reaction, that they, for whatever reason, don't decide to inject themselves. We've heard cases where it was too late and that patient ended up dying. And so what Neffy does, and the proposition here for Neffy specifically, is, let's say you even have a sense that something's coming on. If you spray it in your nose, you can delay that major onset of anaphylaxis. What Aquestive is proposing is a sublingual version that's under your tongue. It's like a little film, if you remember the Listerine sublingual mints or whatever it was. It's just like that. Yeah, I mean, I actually have, if you could probably see, I have a little bit of the package for them. It's a super thin, razor thin.
Okay.
Yeah, but Aquestive, they're behind in terms of getting to market, about a couple of years behind. They're about to run a pivotal PK study to get to an NDA. But so competitive, yes. Differentiated in the mode of delivery. I would say first to market is a big advantage, but look, they're going to pave the way for a product like Aquestive, and getting patients, caregivers, parents the opportunity to think about something other than the EpiPen. So it could, in Aquestive's case, it could be good to be second to market, given the differentiated mode. Other products, similar delivery, that are fast followers to Neffy may not fare as well. That will be more of a product-specific comparison there.
Do you think the FDA is too strict, or do you think that perhaps it's for the best?
No, I mean, listen, we've debated this with some other products in the past, and higher visibility approvals with like Sarepta's DMD product. I know the integrity of the FDA is key. It should always have a high bar for success. I'm not saying that they're doing this deliberately in any way. Obviously, in their case, they want to make there's a benefit cost equation that they always have to consider. That is, do the benefits outweigh the risk in this case? And so they always are more on the side of safety. So if they feel comfortable about a product, then they let the market bear out how it will do. Their job is just to not get themselves in a position where they have to address these issues for a product in Congress. And that's back to the proposition with Neffy. This is going to be a big product. If it's going to be in the hands of millions of people at some point, they just don't want to have to say, listen, we didn't address every specific possibility out there. It was unfortunate the way they communicated that to the company. They were a week away from the PDUFA, the approval date, before they got this notice. So that was not fair to them and to investors. But again, this has created a really, really interesting buying opportunity.
And with that, let's talk a little bit about buying opportunities. You said generalists in the space is a good thing. We have a lot of retail investors watching this webinar, following the coverage from Benzinga. What are some of your picks? What are some of the companies that they should be watching that should be on their radar?
So, I mean, we have a company called Moonlake Immunotherapies. The ticker is MLTX. They just presented their 12-week data at a dermatology conference in Europe, EADV it's called. This is a nanobody, kind of a small monoclonal antibody that is used for the treatment of hidradenitis suppurativa. It's a chronic inflammatory skin disease. We think this is has best-in-class potential. This is going up against some other products out there, one from UCB called bimekizumab, and also the kind of only approved product is Humira, which is well known. It's $1 billion market, but what we like about this is the bar has essentially been raised by sonelokimab. We think it's best in class, and there's an opportunity. It's a big unmet need, and it's an opportunity to grow the market. So they're going to present 24-week data imminently. We don't know when that is, but it should be in the next couple of days, next week. We'll see if those meet our expectations. And additionally, they have 12-week data in psoriatic arthritis in early November. So with those two catalysts, if they're positive, we think the stock has meaningful upside here, and it's on the best ideas list for that reason.
Last question. Before we go, I want to get your thoughts on the rest of the year. Any hot takes on the sector?
Again, as I mentioned previously, we think that this is the rest of the year is a setup into 24, which should be a better year. Macro kind of environment notwithstanding, there are some catalysts that I think are high on investors' minds. Sarepta's phase 3 for DMD. I believe that would be a positive catalyst for the sector if it's good. Obviously, it would expand their patient population potentially, outside of the 4 and 5 year olds to 6 and 7, but it would bode well for that just entire space. And for generalist interest, I think that's what we're really hoping to see, that generalists come back to the space because they realize that biotech is still an area where you can get meaningful upside from a lot of the innovation that's happening there. So stay tuned for those updates, and looking forward to 24.
Andreas, thank you so much. Your wisdom is always valued here at Benzinga. We appreciate the chat.